Hey, what's going on, you beautiful people? It's your boy Where's Fluffy bringing you another Dauntless video. And today we're giving you a beginner's guide on everything you need to know about the current state of Dauntless. So if you're interested in playing Dauntless or new to the game, this is definitely the video for you. Now, slight disclaimer, I'm not going to be going over everything in detail. So if you're expecting like weapons build here or anything like that, please, this is not the video for you. I'm sorry, I'm going over the basic details you need to know in order to start and progress in the game. And just in case you need something explained, I can explain it to you. We're going to be going over it all. And we're going to go ahead and segue into weapons, but before we go into that, it's something I want y'all to understand so it makes more sense when I'm talking about how certain weapons work and what they do. So Dauntless already basically does half of the work for you, but I know some people will understand better through visual learning rather than just being able to read something and having it delivered to them like that. So here we have the damage types. As you can see, there's a list of different text colors and how they work. Now in the first part of this clip, you can see that little light bluish damage highlighted. That is stagger damage. Stagger is basically when you see like that little dizzy symbol around a behemoth's head, meaning they're close to being able to be knocked down. In the next part of the clip right here, you can see this is part damage. It has a light yellowish tint. That basically shows you how close you. That basically shows you how much damage you're doing to a behemoth and how much damage they're taking up until that part breaks. Part break usually works on most limbs, so legs, tail, head, arms. Last we have wound damage that pops up red. You can tell you've wounded a behemoth when you see that glow right there and it's kind of like pouring out of them. It looks like a scar a little bit, and it's highlighted by like that bluish tint inside of it glowing repeatedly. Now, wound basically makes it so behemoths take more part damage up until it breaks for a massive breaking point. So it's basically easier to farm behemoths if you want like a certain part. You want somebody to take wound damage and somebody else who could be able to break it. You can kind of combo it like that. A majority of weapons and armor all have an elemental damage except for the neutral ones. So the clips on the right are basically showing you which elemental buff does to you or to the behemoth. So Blaze sets them on fire, dealing DPS over time. Frost slows their action. Shock basically stuns and staggers them. And Terror damage surrounds them in like a green haze, so if you attack them, you get healed, basically. So they all kind of do something different. This works differently for weapons than it does for armor, though. So elemental damage you see on the right can only basically happen with weapons. They won't happen if you like get attacked and something will happen to the behemoth. It does not work like that. So when it comes to the 5 original weapons in Dauntless, you have to go to my man's Will's here, and he's basically where you go to upgrade your sword, axe, hammer, chain blades, and warpike weapons. These are the 5 original weapons in Dauntless out of the 7 currently out. All weapons have a perk that can't be changed. As you can see with the Raging Blade on the right, we have a +2 Cell Rage Hunter. It can't be changed, and it can go up to a +3 based on the level of the weapon. All weapons also come with some cell slots that can't be changed, so weapons have their own individual cell slots. As you can see when I scroll down, they change, and those can't be changed either. Last thing to point out is that they have a unique effect. Not all of them do, but most of them do, and you can't change this out either. Some legendary weapons like the Hunger have their own unique effect and cell slots, but it has no perk itself. But other late game weapons like Void Bane have a unique effect, a bind that you can select from another weapon of the same type, and prismatic cell slots, which is basically saying you can put any cell you want into here. Now, my recommendation with anything would be, if you want to farm a particular weapon, farm one that has an elemental into it. Neutrals are nice, but having an elemental buff can change a lot of the games and a lot of the way you hunt. Now, I'm not going to tell you which weapon you should pick. I believe you should have fun and pick the weapon that suits you the most, because they all do something a little different and they all kind of work in different ways to get the job done. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. So we're going to go ahead and start with the sword. The sword is basically your jack of all trades weapons. It can do stagger damage, it can cut off tails, and the mobility is pretty nice too. So a lot of the sword play revolves around using your special and a new Valor system. The sword is a little bit more complicated now that they've changed it, but not to the point where it's undoable. So all in all, it excels at getting around and doing a nice amount of DPS at the same time. The axe, on the other hand, is your friendly burst weapon. The damage that comes from the axe is more bursty and chargy, So in order to get more damage done, you want to charge it, and you have to be careful about how you set things up, which is why it's recommended that once you learn a couple of the other weapons, you come to the axe and learn how to use this. It can also sever tails, deal stagger damage, and does insane amounts of burst damage. So when you're using the axe, you're not looking for DPS too much over time, but looking for like single big bursty attacks instead. Now I always bring up being able to like cut a tail off because it's important. The hammer excels at doing stagger damage, which is why we explained, you know, how some of those damage types work early, but it can't cut off a tail for you. Like obviously it makes sense, it doesn't slash, it's more of a blunt weapon and a thump weapon. And with that being said, stuff like cutting off tails, it might not excel at and can't do, but it does more damage when it comes to behemoths like Skarn, who have armor around them, and late game behemoths who have armor surrounded on them too. And I'm going to go ahead and show you what I mean in just a second. You can sort of tell which behemoths have armor just by the sound of you hitting them. This is what it sounds like when you're hitting Charlog's face with no armor. It kind of sounds like you're hitting something that's not too tough. And now you can hear a slightly different sound when I hit it. It has a lot more thump behind it, and you can tell like it's like I'm hitting something that's a lot harder to, you know, do damage to. And a chain blade offers you the most in terms of versatility and being able to get around. You can pull away, you can go forward, you can dash forward. It also attacks the fastest, but doesn't give you that super burst damage compared to weapons like the axe. And this is more so a hit and run speed style in my opinion. You want to get in, get out, and get around instead of trying to like, you know, stay in too much and get the job done. They excel at players who want, you know, sort of that high speed gameplay and just kind of like want to show off basically. Now the Warpike is probably one of the weaker weapons in terms, but also offers a lot of great sort of support, you could say. This is the only weapon that comes with natural wound damage built in, so most of the attacks you use this with is already going to have wound added onto it. Now all of these weapons have a way you can interrupt behemoths, which is important when it comes to hunting too. Now as for the last two weapons, we have Admiral Zai here, who basically gives you the repeaters.
I can give you one.
The repeaters are the most versatile when it comes to being built because they all have a certain part. So basically look at it as you have one gun you can add and replace barrels and handles as you see fit. So you can change up the elemental damage you're doing along with being able to do other stuff like give buffs to your teammates or buff yourself, along with having the opportunity to do explosive damage in a variety of ways. So you can basically set this gun up to your liking. It's the most versatile way to do it. And each piece basically has its own effect that it gives to your playstyle when it comes to using the repeaters, which is why I like them a lot. But keep in mind the repeaters, you have to set it up in a certain way in order to be able to interrupt, which is still kind of hard to do with these. And you also don't get any stagger damage from my knowledge for these behemoths. Now the Sacred Master here is the last weapons we have that came out recently in Dauntless. They're the fist, they're close range, the hitbox is a lot smaller than other weapons because they're so close range, but they're basically a mix between like if the sword and the axe had a baby. They deal stagger damage, they can interrupt, and it does big amount of damage along with giving you a lot of versatility through combos. Now when it comes to like weapon elements, as you can see, if there's a chart right under where the crafting and the name of the weapon is, and it basically shows for all the weapons. Now I got armor needs, and Dauntless comes from the homegirl Moira right here. After you defeat a behemoth for the first time, you unlock its armor. Now like the swords, they all have their own individual perks that can't be changed and come with 1 extra cell slots. Unlike the weapons, they only have 1 instead of 2. But this is where you're getting mostly of your perks or buffs from when it comes to playing Dauntless. They also, like the swords, have to be upgraded in order to get that perk to a level 3, which is the highest it can get currently. Now some are the same, some are not the same. Some might have like the same perks already in it, but with different cell slots. It's kind of up to you to mix and match. But definitely early on, try and focus on at least 2 different elemental ones. So if you run into the same element, it won't affect you as much. Now for the elements, the easiest way to think about it is they work in pairs. So fire and ice is 1 pair. Electric and terror, which is basically kind of like earth, is 1 pair. And the light and void is the last pair. Now light and void don't have any elemental buffs it gives you, but their weapons give some of the strongest buffs or unique perks in the game in my opinion. And the easiest way to remember it is if you're up against a behemoth with a certain element, you want to take armor to defend yourself against that element while taking the opposite of its pair as your weapon to get more damage. Now to level up any of your weapons or armor, you'll need like a select list that you can pretty much see of parts you need from any behemoth. Behemoths all have their own individual weapons you can farm for them. So if you ever want to know what you need or what you're missing for a particular set, just hover over it, look on the right, and just scroll down. And these materials I use to upgrade. You only need pieces when you're first crafting a weapon at level 6 and at level 10, and this is the same for the armor. So the setup hunts is pretty simple. You can either press your main menu button, whichever it might be for you, or you can come to this pretty cool looking thing. Now for patrol hunts give you like the most loot if you're farming something. As you can see, they have base rewards, and they change depending on which patrol you're doing. So this is the best way to farm materials and orbs at the same time. But keep in mind, you never know what behemoth you're going to get, so you might end up getting one you don't like. It's a chance you have to take with this. But they do give out the most rewards, and this is how you farm the most orbs. Pursuit hunts are if you want to go after a specific behemoth, and they can range from either the heroic ones or to the lesser ones. Unlike patrols, they don't give out any extra loot, but you can still farm and level up the same way you normally would. Escalations is a whole different beast. If you're looking to farm solely just behemoth levels and slayer levels, this is the place you want to go to farm those. You want to go to the lesser ones and farm those like that. This is also where you get your legendary weapons from in the 10 through 50. Trials is a completely different beast. You get currency here by defeating behemoths, and you get to use that at Lady Luck's shop. She has different cosmetics and other things you might like and enjoy. But keep in mind, these are the hardest hunts to do in the game thus far. And the training grounds is obviously the training grounds. You can go here and try out all your weapons or whatever the case may be. Definitely do utilize this. Granny Striker is the new alchemist in town. She basically is where you get all your potions from. The potions can be made by using the flowers you find out in the world, either through a patrol or a pursuit, so they can't be found in escalations. You can either craft them with those materials or you can use gold. These can be used in a lot of different ways, whether it be for like extra stagger damage, extra attack speed, extra health regen, or whatever the case may be. You can use them how you want to. I definitely say if you see those flowers out and about, definitely do grab them because they make your whole life a whole lot easier. And there's many different types of potions. If you feel like you might need one or the other, definitely do take them. They'll change your life. They'll help out in your hunt so much. And definitely do utilize this if you want to become a better slayer. Lastly, we have cells. I'm not going to get too in depth with it, but this is basically what you put into your weapon and armors in order to give you more buffs. Yes, they can be upgraded to a +3. And this right here is mostly your bread and butter because it decides your build essentially for the game. First cell is the defense cell. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's for things that keep you like being set on blaze or hurt by a crippling status. It can also give you more health and protect you in a number of different ways. Next up is the power cell. It basically gives you different buffs or DPS buffs, including part damage or more damage when a behemoth is enraged, or more % to stagger damage. Third up, we have the mobility cell. Is exactly what it sounds like. It has to do with your stamina regen or max stamina, how long you can stay invincible when rolling, or how much movement speed you have. Then we got the technique cell. Technique cell is basically like high risk, high reward. You usually need to meet a certain criteria in order to get these cells to work. And last up, we have utility, which is basically what it sounds like. A lot of it has to do with like either your healing or your reviving, your flash, or helping you with your lantern charges. And quick last side note, we have the Slayer level and the Behemoth Mastery level. Both kind of work differently. So Behemoth Mastery obviously can be only done by getting achievements done on behemoths, whereas Slayer level, it can be done by getting achievements with any weapon and behemoths, and that'll level up your Slayer level. That's going to be pretty much the end of the video though. If you do have questions, feel free to let me know in the comments. I'll answer them as best as I can, but I do hope y'all took something from this, and I do hope y'all enjoyed it and learned a lot, and I do hope to see y'all in Dauntless one day maybe. But if you enjoyed it, please do leave a like or subscribe. It definitely helps me out a lot. But I hope y'all have a beautiful and blessed time with whatever it is you're doing, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.